podcast. Okay, so you may want to have something to prop under your hips. Today's practice is going to be entirely, or almost entirely, you'll have options to lift your body up or recline it back at a few points, but otherwise, we're going to be sitting. I'm sorry, I just launched right into that. How impolite. This would be like showing up to dinner and just begin eating. Hi, I'm Michael. I teach yoga. It's a yoga asana today. So we're gonna move, and this is a bit of a hybrid practice. I guess what I would say, when I say hybrid, I'm borrowing from a complementary modality. So it's not just yoga asana, it's a practice called natural movement that forms really, and has, as long as I've been seriously practicing yoga asana, it has formed a sort of co-backbone of my practice. And I really dig it because it is functional, and it's like based in real world situations. And here's the bonus for us. I know how much in our group, like if I've heard any like 2 words with an in between, it's hips and shoulders, hips and shoulders. So the good news about today's practice is, guess what it's gonna hit? Hips and shoulders. Exactly. So you may want to have a prop, whether that's a yoga block if you've got one, but equally it could be, as I come off camera here, I'm actually in the room that I'm normally meant to practice yoga in, but for reasons I don't need to get into, I don't normally come to. It's actually has to do with the camera more than anything, but because I'm down low today, I think it'll work. So just like I'm doing here, you see, I just kind of pop that blanket underneath. The idea behind this is that, and you can try this yourself. In fact, let's start the practice there. So just kind of shaking it out if you need to, like letting go of whatever, if you've got, I took off my hoodie, getting rid of whatever extra clothing you don't need. And I guess just in the background, as you start to, ready yourself, taking on the mental preparation first. So like really arriving on the mat and with all that entails. So the first thing just being checking out, hey, what's going on? Like literally, what is my situation right now? What's happening? So you might actually literally scan your physical environment, kind of over one shoulder, over the other, and hands could be down here on the knees even. You can sort of assist yourself a little bit into a gentle, this is like super gentle twisting at the beginning, nothing extreme. Right? Just like you're scanning, but actually being aware, up, down, what's in my environment? What's around me? Sight, if we've got it, and again, we at various points in our life, or for all of our life, we may not have it, but when you have it, it's a powerful guide and signal, right? So actually, when we move, turning our body and actually following our gaze as opposed to disconnecting our gaze from our physical movements. Okay, good. And also just noticing the quality of your breath. An experienced group. Like I could actually see there. I said nothing, but follow your breath, and a series of abdomens rising gently and expanding, and then falling down, and with the corresponding relaxation up above, north of the collarbones. So that's pretty cool. Look at all of you. Not that it's about affecting a certain way, and now, because again, the mental landscape might be one of, flux of, agitation or tension or whatever, and you might be saying, wow, he saw relaxation. That's not what I'm feeling at all. I must not be doing it right. Not at all. You're doing it wonderfully, okay? There is no right or a wrong. There's painful, which we don't want, okay? We don't need to add any extra suffering to life in this practice. So in terms of just like feeling your way through, not pressing in, not exceeding your capacity, okay? And your breath is really a nice barometer for that. I think of it as the barometer for your internal weather patterns. Whatever's, kind of moving around in there in terms of, storms of strong emotion or, flurries of thought patterns or whatever it is. Just tuning into the simple pattern and shape of our breath is a really good way of connecting. So let's do that now. Again, notice I didn't give any direction other than to become aware of it. So if it feels like a measure of control being brought in, like stabilizing it or smoothing it out, if that's what's called for, if that's what your body is sort of feeding you in terms of guidance, then listen in. That's good. That's better than anything I can add. And if it's just a, let it be, let it go, my breath's going to be what my breath's going to be, that's also just great. We don't want to get myopic about any parts of what we're paying attention to. Okay? Good. And to start, let's, if you're in your seated position, what I was going to say a moment ago, just before we get too meditative, but hopefully we've dropped in a little bit, okay? So we can stay with that. I'm not asking you to jump into uber arousal, but just taking a peek at me. So the simple fact of the matter is that without something under your hips, if you're sitting on your sitting bones like I am here in a cross-legged position, this may not be accessible, right? For a bunch of different reasons. So one, there has to be a pattern of strength that you've developed from sitting like this regularly in your, and mobility in your hips, in order to keep the tension in your midsection and sit without dropping into a slouch and rolling your pelvis back in space. And you probably can see what's happened there. Everything's gotten, liney and tight in my shirt as I slump down and my low back let out, okay? This is not, it may even, this is the tricky thing, it may feel nice in a moment, like a release, this is so much work. This, I can just let go. But over the long term, this is turning in, this is dropping back in a way that's not supported. And we're actually, and you can feel this, take a couple of breaths in this position right here. Try to breathe in, not up in your chest, try to actually send the breath down towards your belly or towards your pelvic floor. And notice if you sit up, collarbones get broad, feeling some space at the side of the body. Just energetically how that picks everything up. Okay, so there's a lot, see how, this is a big practice and we haven't gotten moving yet, okay? So just if it becomes, I think this is a great way to practice if it feels good. And if it doesn't, we could be in this sort of bent sit position, which we're going to come to, or you could kind of sashay your legs out to one sashay. You could say bring your legs out to the side, okay? It's really about optimally, just play with this for a moment, truly wherever you are, without judging it, without thinking, am I doing this right? Just play with a few different positions, seated. And notice, and you'll notice I'm not cueing any of them, although I'm doing some of them. Just notice what feels more or less natural. You can play follow the leader and kind of do what I'm doing, but you certainly don't have to, okay? But even just kind of getting familiar with what feels good in my body and what doesn't, and know that that can change day to day, right? Okay, whatever shape works for you, I'm gonna go cross-legged in the rather poorly named easy pose, because it's not always so easy. But truly, organize your body in a way that is a balance of that kind of engaged, where you're lifting yourself up. So a little bit of tension, a little bit of arousal, like you're awake, you're alive, you're here, right? You're feeling all of that. But balancing it with a bit of ease. So if you're up here and your breath starts moving up and it's just to stay in this shape, well, I think that that's an interesting boundary to play with, but probably not sustainable for the long term. So, again, under, or you can post up with your arms. Just try that. Notice how this changes a lot. You're taking when we do this, it's kind of like if you were walking, at a fast pace and got short of breath, or even running, and you'll sometimes see people, they put their hands on their legs and bend over. This is an instinctual response, right? This is to allow the diaphragm and the muscles, the structural muscles that hold us up, to relax so that it can just be about breathing, right? And it's the same thing here. Like if you just kind of post up with your arms in any of these positions, you may notice that there's a lot more support, right? So know that that's always available to you too. Okay, cool. Any questions? We all good? Okay. So let's start actually, regardless, you can do this whether there's something under your sitting bones, your seat or not. Actually, here's a fun fact. So you can see that I just pulled myself back into this pose. This is the easier version for me, okay? With my left pulled in and my right on top. I'm not trying to bore you with like my leg positions, just trying to show that our body gets used to patterns. So that's the go-to for me, and it feels really natural. If I reverse it and go this over this, and you can probably see I'm kind of struggling to get into it, it doesn't feel natural at all, okay? Which, again, if I want to stay in a sustained pattern or practice, this is probably not the place I'm going to go. But every day now, in fact, often during my seated meditation in the morning, I am taking this opposite, just trying to break the pattern, right? So just gaining some awareness of what do I tend to do? You know, do I tend to drop a shoulder? Do I tend to lean, you know, take the world on leaning forward? Or do I, you know, am I more leaning back? You know, all of these postural attitudes, if you will, are information. They're telling us about ourselves and how the world is interacting with us and vice versa. Okay, but let's move in that world. All right, so sitting in a way that's balanced, whatever is going on with your legs. Let's just consider this. Can you take the weight and roughly balance it? You can see I'm just kind of rocking gently side to side. And then find what feels like center, where your weight is truly balanced equally on the two sitting bones. So you're not sitting on one hip or off to the side. Okay? You can also just kind of move the flesh away if that feels, you know, like to get a nice firm purchase there. Okay? Organize your legs in some way that feels comfortable so that they're not, you know, they're not bugging you. And then know that you can set your posts. Balance your upper body. So open the shoulders up and take them back. Again, this is a global cue, so like some people, if you're leaning back, taking your head further back is not a great place to go, but for most of us, it's either the slump or it's the leaning forward into our hips. So just maybe noticing, have you jutted your chin forward, okay? Lots of strain here, so especially if we're feeling, you know, headache stuff going on, this is not a great place to be. So just back, okay? And it's just a little tuck of the chin and then just, you know, letting go. Like the muscles can't completely let go because we're sitting, but just trying to find a bit of ease there. Okay. And then bringing one hand to the side, just posting that up. You can bring either your palm down or onto your fingertips. And then inhale, bring the other arm up. You'll notice I didn't say left or right because it totally doesn't matter, okay? Then what I'm gonna ask you to do with the side that your arm is down, make that side smaller. So not leaning forward, not leaning back, but bending over to the side, allowing the other side to expand. We're gonna just hang out here for a couple of breaths. So nice long side bend. You can just play with turning your shoulder a little bit in the joint if that's not bothersome. Okay, or maybe bringing the arm up and back. You can even kind of sweep it through a few times, one way and the other. And then inhale and come up, and exhale, we'll drop that hand down, and inhale, other rises. So first it's a real kind of just like reaching up for the sky, and then exhale, open up through that long line on whichever side. Not collapsing in, so not like hugging the ear or the chin into the elbow, like we're proud and in our post, we're supporting ourselves rather than collapsing, okay? Breathing here, maybe looking up, again, maybe looking back and noticing what does this position do for my, what I can see around me. Exhale, come on down. Okay, and then just maybe bringing both hands on the shoulders and a few slow, like really generous. So experientially, notice the difference here. Faster, many, okay, not so fast that you're bothering yourself, but versus a really super slow, deep circle, which you then reverse. Watching for those front ribs to kind of pop up and fly up, or that's where my body likes to go, okay? So we can be collapsed, but we can equally be, so trying to find some balance, okay? Let the arms go, okay. And then from here, hands come to our heart center, just bringing your palms together, and we'll inhale, following our hands with our eyes. Exhale, turn the hands out and open to the sides. And sweep the hands back in. Inhale, turn out, exhale. One more of those, inhale, exhale. So we're saluting here in a seated salute. Let's just reverse it. Inhale, not our breath, just the motion of our arms. Exhale down the center line of our bodies. This prime meridian. Inhale. Exhale. Last one. Inhale. Exhale. And let that go. And just shake it out. Shake it out like you're a wet dog. As much as you can as you're sitting. And if you don't like that, I mean, what's not to like about a dog? Especially a wet dog, they're happy, right? But just like any loose energy, any tension we don't need, just blah, 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 go. Good, thanks, you're done. Job done, right? Okay. So now a little bit of reaching, okay? So from here, again, let's start. I am actually gonna call out arms. If you end up on the wrong arm, there's no wrong, just switch it up on the other side. And also, if it feels pinchy or any of these movements don't feel good, so like for instance, let's say it's an inhale to bring the arm up like that, and that doesn't feel good, explore where it feels good too, take your breath, and then drop, okay? So it's not about forcing, it's about exploring mindfully, okay? So you can always, and so if you had an injury, say on one, you could double up on the other, okay? So let's, one hand coming down, the other, inhale, comes up, and reach up. Really reach up out of your seat, out of your sitting bones. Exhale, bring the arm down. Inhale, reach up. Okay, really up out of the back of the shoulder blade, like it's your arm itself is coming up from your body. Exhale, release, or again, wherever feels nice. Then let's take that first arm and just reach it behind you like you're gonna reach for the wall behind you, okay? Try to do this without cranking too far inward, but there is gonna be some rotation in our shoulder, okay? And then come on back. And then reach back. And again, you can see I'm taking my eyes back as well. And return. And then we'll take our right arm up and away. And back down. And up and away. Just to the opposite corner at the top of the room. And back down. And maybe just noticing the space that already may be there on our shoulders, right? So you see there, if that feels nice, there's a lesson there, right? Like this is a practice that is accessible, I think, anywhere. You could be in a chair, you could be on the subway, you could be in a wheelchair, you could be truly anywhere, okay? Let's actually just play with that a couple times. So now I'd ask you to explore, and yeah, if you've got sore neck and you're adjusting just to, find the practice, that is good too. So please, you're not veering off, and despite the fact that we can see each other, that's a smart practice. So go where you're gonna go, and you can always rejoin us when that seems right, okay? So from here, maybe a bit of exploration. Everything in that first pass, we were really grounded. Like you'll notice, I wasn't lifting off of either or asking you to kind of lean or reach, okay? So now what we're gonna do is, only to what feels comfortable, is to begin to reach through, okay? So we'll start where we didn't go first, which is to reach forward, both hands, okay? Then maybe a little bit further with the right hand, leaning forward off of our sitting bones, and back. So sitting bones are back, and then leaning a little further with our left, maybe coming up, and back. And then taking ourselves out to the side, left hand comes down, come up across your sitting bones and reach to the side. I'm gonna reach right off frame here. And then on this other side, and you might be constrained by your environment like I am, you can see, I can't get to the wall, but that's where you would reach through. And then look back to that back corner, post an arm, reach like you were gonna try to pick something up out of that corner, and come on back. And then post your right arm, look around, follow your gaze to the right, reach, lean. So you're rolling through the hips here a little bit, and then you can just kind of play with that, like rolling up on one hip, rolling up on the other. How does this feel? How does that feel? What happens if I take my arm in a big arc? Boom, like that. What happens if I switch it up? See, it's all really just an exploration. Like, I didn't plan this. This is the opposite. Well, I planned the class, but this particular movement, this is just calling out to me right now as we're here, right? And then you come on back. It's just about creating some space, some freedom into the upper body. Okay, so just know that remembering here that we can do this really, really grounded, really seated, or, using our weight to leverage our situation, okay? Just checking on our time here. All right, we're good. How are we doing? Good out there? Okay. Let's pause, okay? However you've been organized before, can you organize your legs or your body in a slightly different shape? Okay, no, you don't have to like stand up or, splay yourself in a strange starfish or anything, but you can see before I was in a cross-sit position, and now I'm just coming up with bent legs, okay? And for me, this is work if I'm not bound. This, which may or may not be accessible, is not, because my arms are kind of locked and I'm held in here, okay? Take a couple of breaths. Just being aware of all the feels. Noticing where you feel it in your body. Notice any changes in your breath. Okay. You see, and my tendency right there to drop right in. That's why the eyes close, and it's just like a brief repose, and then we're back. Okay. So here's one. Now this is one that you can play with, and you can decide how deep you want to go. What I would suggest is that you can use, if you have very long arms, you can do this just like that, or I shouldn't even say very long because mine aren't all that long, but all, combined with the strength to lift your hips up. What can feel a little bit more supportive is this, like using the blocks, okay? Or some sort, a couple of big books, right? And it's really just to play with balance in this bent position. So we're almost like we're in, again, now your hands could stay here on the blocks, or ultimately, we can take the weight out of our hips. So really nice flat back, like I'm not curling in, but I'm also not bananaing, right? And then release down. Just shake those legs out, okay? So here, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually play with imbalance. So I often talk about playing with balance, like the idea of coming up on one foot or coming up on our sitting bones here and balancing. But what I'm going to ask you to do now is to deliberately, safely, okay, so this isn't about swinging your body wildly, but can you just sweep your weight gently or tip your weight back and forth? Notice that if you do this with your blocks or with something under your hands, it's almost like a teeter-totter, right? Like your butt's the axle. The idea here is that we can get into almost, this is the beginning of a pattern to roll. So you can see, again, you may not have the room and you may not have the mobility in your back and so on where this would feel good, but what you could begin to do is roll. Just little rolls. And if it feels too big to come from seated, use your hands, come down, roll. And you can just roll kind of back and forth here. If happy baby is a part of your practice, okay, you can be here. But the rolling itself is kind of interesting, kind of invigorating. So I'm a big believer, I'm a big fan. So you could side roll too, right? But that can get trickier depending on our weight distribution in the front of our body. That's where I'm leaving that one. I think you can probably follow me through that, like if you were rolling onto your front as opposed to this back body rolling. But it can feel nice, okay? It's also just a nice place to go at any point during the yoga practice or during the day into an upside down child's pose, just to like hug your legs in, and you can just kind of rock from side to side. Again, I was gonna say it's deeply restful, unless it isn't. Like I really like hanging out there, but check it out. How does that land? Okay, just checking on our time here. Yeah, we're good. Okay, so let's actually bring ourselves into, so yoga pose wise, this would be like a seated twist. We would come where you're basically bringing one foot to the top of the opposite knee and allowing the other leg to go that way, okay? This is also, if you look at it, it is very much like the bent sit, but what we're doing is just dropping both legs to the side, okay? Bring your hands to your sides, and ultimately the goal is this is gonna probably in the upper hip, okay? So where I am here, it may feel tender, it may feel tight. You can lift yourself up off of your hips, okay? With or without the bolsters, if that is the case. Just, whoo. You can also bring a block under a hip to lift it up, okay? Always an option. These are all, so we're playing with our posts, our props, and our position, just to find, you know, relative comfort. Like at first, this is probably not gonna feel super comfortable, but over time, we're building mobility, we're building strength, we're building capacity to move. Okay, and here, and I'm just going to show you, and you can play with this. So one is just to sit for time here, not just kind of dropping our belly out, but like we're in this sort of proud, contained position, and then really just taking our legs out and dropping them out in the other direction. So my right hip is slightly up off of the mat, not as high as it used to be. Okay, it's a practice of a lifetime, but the point here is that we're working both rotations in our hips when we do both sides. Right now, because I've turned my knees both to the left, my left hip is externally rotated, meaning it's opening out. My right hip is turning over the top, okay? And so you can, if you could do that the other way, you'll notice that the pattern switches. Right, open, left, closed. And so, you know, in the same way that like a door that only opened one way would be I would argue of limited use, you know, the great door, but it's always closed. So, you know, same thing with our hips. Like it's about, you know, sometimes we're closed and sometimes we're open, and on each side, okay? And then last bit, we'll just do a couple more here, is you could drop through, again, using your hand to post, and then look and reach. And bring your arm up. And bring it forward. And bring it back. And then switch your position. Okay? Post your arm. Reach back and across. Bring it forward. Reach back. Reset. Nice. And again, did you do it in the right pattern? There is no right, there is no wrong. I think it's kind of just nice to intuitively say, like, what's the next move? You tell me, buddy, I'll do the thing, you know, I'll do that moving thing. You just get me going. Okay, so we're good in the cross position. You could, if cobbler's pose feels nice, okay, bringing the soles of your feet together, it can be here. Okay. This is also, I think you all know, I'm a big fan of different mobilities for getting up off of the ground and back down. This is an advanced one though, so I'm gonna show you, but I'm gonna suggest really until you've got the strength in your ankles. This one's a tricky one, but you could do it. I'll actually show you the post version because that's easier a little bit. It's to press up and come to stand. I'm gonna stand right out of the frame, but like that, okay? And then back down to cross. And ultimately what you're working toward is to be able to press out into the outsides of the feet and come like that, okay? But that, again, that is something that probably, until we, you know, do some work to strengthen the ankles and create some room in the hips, isn't gonna feel real good. But it's nice to know that there's a trajectory, at least a possible one, right? Okay, just checking out our time here. Yeah, we still got 5, we're good. Okay, so, second of 3 down, let's bring both legs forward, okay? In yoga, this is called staff pose, okay? Dandasana in the Sanskrit. Really here, the feeling of just the tips of your heels coming slightly off of the mat, and your toes, if possible, coming back towards your face. Really engage the fronts of your legs and sit up. And you can use your hands again here to post. If anything, hinge at the hip with a flat back. So rather than this, we're up, and then if you wanted to hinge forward, and it's probably not going to be very much, it's just a little like that, okay? And then you might look up, and you might reach up with one hand, like you're picking an apple off of a tree from a seated position. Reach up with the other hand. Look behind, oh no, it's back there. Come on back, both hands come up. Wait, it's back there. Come back. Not losing the integrity in our pelvis to accomplish that goal. Come on back down with our hands. Nice. Both hands come to the sides. Step the feet out into a V. Watch for that pelvis. Actually, feel for that pelvis. Okay, I don't mean with your hands, but actually just notice the tendency to want to kind of dump back and like you're rolling back onto the bottom part of your spine. Prop forward, okay? Find that tension to stabilize. And if that isn't comfortable, if this isn't comfortable, it can be less, okay? It can be this, with feet on the floor. There are no rules. Just user instructions, okay? Or you can bring your hands in behind and open those shoulders up and really get proud, okay? Maybe bringing your left hand down on your left leg. And then you can turn to your right, towards your right shoulder, and lift the hand up. And then exhale, slide the left hand down the leg any amount. It's not about getting to our toes here. It's just, again, a nice little stretch to the side body. Noticing the distribution of weight, one hip to the other. Can you lean into your right sitting bone so that you're not leaning over? And come up on the inhale, good. You can post with our right hand. Inhale, lift the left hand up. Exhale, coming across. So we twisted, and if you're thinking that feels different than the other way, again, we don't have to be way out here. We might be here, we might be here. Don't worry, I reversed it, but we're gonna fix that. Inhale, arm comes up. Exhale, it comes down. And then inhale the right arm up. Exhale, you can come over that way. Maybe the left arm rises up. Okay? Left arm comes down. Right arm comes up. Exhale across toward the other side. Again, not being too concerned about where we're landing. And then hands come into center. And again, I'll ask you to organize a comfortable way to sit. I was going to show you legs up the wall, but I'm thinking now that's a bad idea. I'm going to kick that picture, the poster off of the wall. So to conclude our practice, let's just come into whatever sitting position feels comfortable. And slowly, if you've lost that awareness of your body and space and of what's going on in your breath, with your breath, or with the breath that's breathing you, with your thoughts or whatever is happening, just tuning back in. What's the weather like? What's the internal terrain and what's the external terrain? If that's your bag, you might feel a little bit more unified, like it's, the out and the in, when we're doing this reaching and pulling and everything, it's all just so connected. Or maybe not. Who knows, right? That's the cool thing about the practice, is that it's an exploration. Hands come to your heart. Give them a little tap, hey buddy, gotcha, love ya, okay? Does that feel weird saying that? Interesting. Something to check out, okay? It doesn't need to, okay? I'm sending all of my warm, kind, and love-filled thoughts out to all of you because you rock. Here you are, making the time, showing up, doing this thing. You are so welcome. I'm just gonna bye everyone.